Awesome, guys. Good morning and good afternoon to the Revaluate and the real estate community that's joining us. This is the Revaluate Coaching Lab, where we discuss conversion strategies and best practices for managing your database. I'm your host, Alejandro Cortez, and today I have two excellent guests with me, two friends that will join me in this adventure. So Wayne Selmans. Wayne, I'm going to point out a couple of things about you, and you can correct me where I'm wrong, but you are a coach, and you have been coaching for how many years?
Man, a couple decades now.
Nice. And you also run your own company called Hero Nation. You want to give us a quick, 2-second, what that is?
Hey, this is going to be a taste of that. We help people get where they want to go faster with fewer bruises. So it's you got way too much to do to try to do it on your own or do it for the first time or learn by trial and error.
Awesome. And I know you're an author as well, right? You've got a book.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. The art of getting back up. Absolutely.
Nice. And with me as well today, who you obviously know, Brad Allen, who is also a coach, but also a mortgage broker. And you have a pretty large team. I think last time I checked, about 23 agents. Is that correct, Brad?
Sounds accurate-ish. You would know more better than I would.
And I mean, I follow you on social media and stuff, and I think everyone should. I think some of the videos you publish, and you too, Wayne, you guys are, you're hitting it hard. You're putting out some really good content on social media. So after this, make sure you guys share that information with our agents.
Yeah, for sure. And Wayne's book is great. Once you color in the first 3 pages, it's just smooth sailing from there. So
just go from there. Go from there. I should include the crayons. I should. That should be part of the package.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, again, guys, thank you for hanging out with me today. I think we have a pretty good topic. Correct me if I'm wrong, Wayne, but it's 4 reasons to call your database throughout the year. Is that
I think we're hoping to cover 3 things. So I think first is just give you an overview of database setup, and then give a couple reasons to reach out to your database throughout the year that actually work, that you did not learn from Mike Ferry 6,000 years ago. Love Mike, but things have changed. And then lastly, we're going to talk about how to reach out to those cold leads, right? To where you have a name and a number, but that's it, right? How do I make that first engagement? So I think if we can nail those 3 things, that'll be a good day. So
Awesome.
we got a lot to cover in a little bit of time. So we'll take it away. Please, if you are here, put something in the chat, like a thumbs up or a star or something. Let us know where you're from. If you are engaging with us, we do 10 times better based on market research. So the more engagement, the better it is. So let us know you're here. Let us know where you're from. That'd be awesome. And we'll
and we like to be like,
that's all right.
Be like stand-up comedians. Like hecklers are welcome. Like we'll definitely come at us, bring it. We need a little heckling in life.
There you go, Mike. You are awesome. Thank you for being the first and only. Yep, exactly. Really, for name and number only. Where do you go from there? It's huge. All right, so let me dive in. Let me just start with this. Give you a quick overview of the database piece. So the first thing is, like, if your competitor has an inferior product but they're better communicators, they're going to beat you in the market. Right? Like your job is to communicate consistently, effectively, and we spend 3 classes on that. But when we come to database and database management, one of the big things is there's a lot of different words for database, but the reality is the goal of your database, oftentimes you have 2 different databases. First off, you have your long-term database, which is like past clients, buyers, sellers, people that, for one crazy reason or another actually like you, right? And then you have your active data, you have your lead or suspect database, okay? The 2 separate things, okay? And I think it's important. Most people try to cram those into one, when a lot of times I use a lot of clients that Brad and I work with. A lot of them have 2 separate systems for those. You know what I mean? So you have 2 different ones, or you should have systems for those. Some people don't have any, which is the case a lot of times. But I want to give you the brief description on what I do with somebody that doesn't have a database at all, or is like me, had a mess of a database, 6,000, 8,000 people, and it was just like I may as well grabbed a phone book is how it felt some days. So here's the simple layout for that that I walk a lot of my clients through. So the first thing we do is we start on paper, right? Like, who do I want to work with? What different buckets? I want to have 3 or 4 different buckets of that I put everybody in. I want to have a plan for how I'm going to take care of them. right? What's my goal for that bucket? Then I'm going to build out like my marketing calendar, and then I'm going to build it all out in the CRM, right? So a lot of times people come to Alex, they're like, "How do I build it out in the CRM?" And he's like, "What do you want to build?" Right? So it's like we haven't done these steps, or somebody gets a fancy CRM and starts just winging it, and then all of a sudden like you have 600 touches in one day, or it's just such a cluster that you don't do anything with it. So it's really key that we sit down, we start on paper, figure out what we want to do, how we're going to do it, what those buckets would be. Then we build it out in the CRM and have a marketing calendar. Brad, would you agree? It's like, I just think it's so important to start this way.
For sure. And that's kind of preaching to the choir right now. Just give you some practical everyday uses. We do the same thing. So new agent starts with us or experience, it doesn't really matter. We're going to put them in a spreadsheet first, like, because that's the easiest. You can see them. If you start by putting people in a database without their full contact, you're always going to forget their email address because you got to click through.
Yeah.
The 4 categories we have, if people want some actual examples, so we start at the top. Very few people have any, and if you do have some, you're very lucky. And this is nothing that I came up with. I kind of stole a bunch of different pieces, and I probably renamed some, and it's still the same as others. But we call them the core at the top, right? Those are people that could give us a referral a month. Oh my gosh, I think I stole it from Wayne. That's what it was. That's who taught me this.
Hey, steal away. That's the whole point of these calls, right, Alex? So nobody has to start from scratch. Like that's exactly
100%.
why we do this. Yeah.
Well, and I love that Brad put this in my book. Yeah.
I love that Brad forgot that he took it from you. But continue, Brad, please. This is awesome.
Well, Wayne did coach me for several days. So no, so yeah, play off of this. Thanks, Wayne. So the core, right? They can send you one referral a month typically. So they're other business people. They're other people that can actually have that. They're not usually a stay-at-home spouse that's just wrapped up with kids all day, although they're great for your database. They just may not be your core. To break them down for Wayne too, the raving fans, right? Those are people that would use you if they had the opportunity. Those are your friends. Those are your diehards. Those are people that if they heard somebody in a restaurant say, "I want to buy a house," they're going to get up and like bully that person into calling you. You've got them.
Yes.
Like it's super simple. The next one, past clients, SOI. That's just like your holding tank. Those are people that you know that would use you if you reminded them, you're still in the business. That's the past client thing, right? The 14% actually used their previous agent. 87 said they probably or strongly would. That's that. And then you got your farm. I don't think it's a geographic farm. Wayne may have a different opinion on this. I think it's your CrossFit gym. I think it's your church. I think it's your whiskey club. I look at it more of a social farm, personally. Mm-hmm. And then I have one more. I have out of town. I don't forget about the out-of-towners. I personally do about 11 to 12 million. I want to do 20 this year of referral business. And so I don't forget about people out of town. We just attack them differently. The one thing I want to add to Wayne's part is agents get stuck in task. So if you just go in there and add a 20-year follow-up plan that tells you when to do stuff every 2 months, like Wayne said, you're going to open it up and have a million to-dos. You're going to give up and you're not going to do it. So I'd rather use the calendar as the trigger and know every month I've got to send an email to this group of people on the second Thursday. And they don't have a task to do. I just hit select all or the actual tag I need to do, and then mass email or reach out or whatever it might be. So sorry, before I steal more of Wayne's presentation, please continue.
No, and I have a question too. So this is something that every agent can do before they even start, right? They don't need to have anything set up. They just sit down, take each of their contacts and basically plop them in one of these 4 categories.
If this is not your first step, you will fail or have the hardest freaking time getting past client. Like if this is not it, like this is the most important step. This is the gospel. You should not pass go. You should not take a buyer agency. You shouldn't pick up your effing phone. You should do this first. Like that is the basic. People that do this, I don't have the stats, but I can guarantee you make 100 times more money than the person that doesn't.
Excellent.
Yeah. And sometimes it like starts on an Excel sheet, right? Put 300 people, 100 people on an Excel sheet, and then we're going to categorize them. Like just start. And I'll move from this quickly, but I just think it's important to point out, like, just like Brad said, right? And you might have 2 buckets, you might have 6, but you don't need 48, which is what a lot of people get caught up in. They mess up and it becomes a cluster. And the only reason we're categorizing them different is we're going to take care of them different. So figure out how many emails do we want to send to each category, right? Usually it's like 1 a month or 2 a month to everybody, right? How many personal visits? We're not visiting everybody, like that's insane, right? How many events and who are we inviting to the events? But so we do this on paper, then we figure out where the email is going to be. If you're going to do mail, what's that going to be? What we're going to talk about here in 5 seconds is what are the calls or the conversations going to be, right? So we make a plan, and then to Brad's point, we go, can we execute this plan? Because some people are like, man, I'm going to call everybody in database, once a month. And that's like 6,000 people. It's not like, can I actually execute on this, on the plan that I've written out in a reasonable manner, right? So that's why we do this first and lay it all out. So then we get to this part right here. And this is what I want to focus on for a second. Then we'll get to the cold leads. But the question I get a lot is, do I have to call my database? Do I have to call them? Do I have to talk to them? My personal take is you need to, like an email, let's say is worth 1 point, right? A handwritten letter is worth, 25 points. A call is worth 75 or 100 points. Nothing, all the other stuff is good. Nothing compares to, Brad, how are you? Do you have any questions about like nothing compares to an actual conversation? So the reason that I have call/conversation is some people are never going to pick up the phone, right? So maybe that's, but a conversation could be a text that they respond to, right? It's like we had some sort of, it could be voice memos, whatever it is, but I think you have to call if you want the highest return. There's a lot of things, but if you want the highest return, you have a call or a conversation with everybody. I believe your A, B, and C's, usually 4 times a year. I want to talk to them 4 times a year. The issue is most people have no idea why to call them. So it feels like a booty call, right? It's like, hey, Alex, it's 2 a.m. I really need a listing. And you're like, who is this? Right. And I'm like, it's wait, right. And you're like, what? Like, it feels so weird. And it should feel weird. Like, stop booty calling your database. Right. So I want to give 4 reasons why to call the database that I think actually work and feel good. Right. And we're gonna hit them pretty quick, and then because I want to get to the cold stuff. But these are the 4, and I'd love to know what Brad's 4 are, or 2 or 3 are as well, because we didn't talk about what his are before this call.
Communication's our strong part.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, just purely through memes. All right. So here's the 4. So let me start with, I believe once a year you should call your database and say, hey, it's been a crazy year. Almost everybody I know has questions about real estate. Do you have any questions? Right? Do you need anything this year? Right? Once a year, it needs to be a direct, do you need any help with real estate? But you don't need to do that 6 times a year. It's going to get weird, right? So I might do that. And that's not my first call if I haven't talked to my database in a long time. So my first call is this one, the service provider call. I love this call. So this is where I call Brad and I go, hey, Brad, great people know great people. So I'm reaching out to you. I'm updating my service provider list, right? I got lots of people moving here from all over the country, and they're looking for great plumbers, electricians, yard guys. I was curious, who do you know that gives great service that I could add to my list? It's the easiest first touch ever. And I can do that every year, update my list, and send that list out to people where like, it's such a great touch. I love it. And if I was side note, if I was brand new, Brad goes, oh, I know Joe. He's a great, whatever yard guy, whatever it is. I'm going to go, awesome. Then I'm going to call Joe. If I'm brand new and I need to build my database, I'm going to call Joe and go, Joe, Brad said you are the man. I was curious if you're open to taking on more business. Joe's like, absolutely. I'm like, cool. Like, I'm a local realtor. Tell me a little bit about what you do so that I can possibly send clients your way. I'm going to start building that relationship. We have a whole plan for how to build that. But you could build your whole database on that service provider script. It's beautiful.
And Joe is a core, which he has the ability to send you a referral a month. That becomes a business decision. So when you call Joe every month after you have this initial conversation, like, Joe, I sent you 5 yard clients, dog. Where's mine? Like, he's going to feel some guilt, and he's going to know where his bread and butter is coming from. So you better be damn sure he's going to keep his ears open a lot better going forward.
Yes. Yep. Here's the one ninja script that this is worth your year of coaching. The one ninja script is to teach your service providers is get them to, when they go on a job, the one question they ask is, what prompted you to clean up the yard? What prompted you to replace the floor in this room? What prompted us to paint the living room? Right? Just what prompted you? That homeowner is going to tell them, we're thinking about selling, we're thinking about moving. To get right, they're gonna, like, that's one of those best questions you can ask them. Teach them to ask. So then the other 2 calls, right? A lot of my clients like do a community event, right? They do a toy drive, they do a fill the food pantry drive, whatever. They do something giving back to the community. And then the other event, the other thing you could do, so let's say I do the community event, at the direct call to action. I usually do in, first quarter. service provider, I would usually do the second quarter, or I would do that first if I haven't talked to anybody in a long time. Maybe then I do the upcoming event we're doing, right? Hey, we're doing, music in the park, or we're having an ice cream machine, or whatever it is. And then I would do the community event at some point throughout the year. But I'd pick one per quarter, and those would be my 4 reasons to talk to the database that are awesome and not weird, and whole plan.
Yeah. So the community event, real quick, we go big into this because the number one complaint I get from my agents is I've called my database. What do I need to talk to them now? So a couple of things I want to stress if I were talking to somebody directly is I'm not calling my database to see if they want to buy and sell a house. Not. If I've done my job properly, that every 7 to 11 years, I got thumbs up, they're going to reach out to me, right? So I don't have to worry about calling that. Like if they're my raving fans or my core, they're gonna call me. That's why they're in that group, and that's why they should be in that group. So what we do is the community events, we do 1 a quarter as a company in every market. So we do cookies and beer in the February, March-ish, a baseball game in May, something in the summer, and then like pumpkins. But 2 months out, you call and invite them. You send them an evite. 2 weeks out, you call and invite them again. You see them at the event. It's not a stump speech. You're not trying to get them to buy. You're not auctioning anything. It's literally just hanging out and having community. Then a week or 2 later, you call them and thank them for coming, or sorry, I missed you. And oh, by the way, don't forget about the baseball game. So now you're having organic conversations like a friend would invite a friend to a movie. And so that way it's always going to be organic, but you're also giving to get back. And honestly, guys, I get agents all the time. They're like, I'm sending handwritten cards. I'm doing a mailer to 10,000 houses and they're going to spend $3,000. Or I can go to a brewery, buy 3 kegs of beer, all the beer's on me, for $2,000, have 100 people show up, and now we've built community. They know me in a personal sense, and I'm going to see how I can plug them into my, like those cores like Wayne showed. If they're just a sphere and past client, and I get to know them once I close, and they are I don't know, somebody that's, let's use a mechanic again. And I'm like, oh, same thing. How can I get them to be a core? Because they're going to see a lot of people. Yeah. They're going to deal with a lot of people. How can I move them from past client to core? Now I'm playing checkers and chess with my database to get more business. Or maybe I take my past client and I make them a raving fan because they're going to always tell their neighbors about me. Yeah. Well, cool. So that's kind of my mental goal too. But it all starts with events. It's simple. It's easy. It's smooth. There's usually alcohol. So you're loosened up. Like it's good.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
So like you said, like this should be an ascension ladder. Yeah. Keep going, Alex.
No, I always talk to the agents that are asking me how to use our Revaluate strategy. And I mention events all the time because it doesn't put the customer in a weird position where you're asking them questions. Like it gives them the opportunity to come in their own terms. I mean, just kind of open up if they have to. And I wasn't thinking about this. And what Brad said, you got to be constantly thinking about these columns, right? And you got to be moving people around, playing chess, playing checkers with them. This concept here should pretty much be implemented with every agent as far as I'm concerned.
I'll be honest. This is why, I mean, the average in our market does 4 deals a year. Our agents do like 17 to 18. It's because we're sphere community based, but that's what we preach. It's not leads. And you can do this with leads. Once you find the lead and you get them and you understand who they are, you place them in the right buckets and then you nurture them that way. And you're not being disingenuous. You're not being rude to them. You're not seeing them as pawns. You're just seeing them. And I say this to my agents. I look at everybody and say, how can I make money off this person? Respectfully, like, how can I make the most money off this relationship? Sounds bad, but that's the way you have to look at it.
Awesome. And the last thing I'll say about the database is the cool thing about like our clients that do this is we can kind of start doing math, right? And we usually adjust these depending on how they come up with their boxes, right? But like I know that if I've got a raving fan, I should get a closed deal, right, for every 10 people that are in that bucket. Right. For every 10 people in there, like I know that one of them is either going to send me a referral or want to buy or sell a house. Right. For this group, well, I'm going to, for every 25 people in there, I know I'm going to do at least 1 transaction a year. Right. Depending on how you frame that. Right. But like I can kind of start doing some math and go, hey, if I have 100 people in here, here's what I'm going to probably do this year. Hey, if I have 300 people in here, here's probably what I'm like. I can start doing some math on this instead of just having this hope and pray plan. Right. And to Brad's point, like if I get these raving fans, if I have, Joe that's out there and I'm helping him, he's helping me, he should probably send me a referral once a month. And half of those should probably turn into business. So that's 5-6 deals a year from taking care of Joe. Like that's amazing. If this is all, so if this is all you did, it would be huge. So, all
I'm
right.
just, can I add, I'm sorry, one more thing. I want to tie it to Revaluate real quick for some people. And I was just thinking about this. If I have this chart and I have analyzed and categorized my entire database, and I get what we call a very likely mover, someone that scores high, I know what to do now because I go to this chart and I see where they are. I know they're having a life event and I know what to do next. It's kind of like a guide for me to know how to approach this person. Are they a raving fan or are they one of the other ones? It kind of helps right away to know what kind of conversation I need to have. Am I thinking about that correctly?
Well, yeah. And then also going back to the very beginning, we are Revaluate users. And I don't let them get in the database without an email because it's going to put my agents at a disadvantage. They're not using a
Yeah.
very lucrative tool. And one thing I do want to address, on the chart Wayne showed, I know we got to move on. It said like I have some agents go, I don't have a database of 200. And there's some companies out there like, don't come talk to me unless you know 200 people. You go to the farm. And so I look at things as a lifestyle. What do you like to do? Is it CrossFit, church, whiskey, walking, whatever? And so within the first year, you need to go join 3 of those groups and then introduce yourself to people. Imagine that you have to network. And then as you network, you find out about them. And then you try and take them to a one-on-one and have a deeper conversation. But everybody you meet should go in there. And it's very easy to do that because then you can build that said database and then start plugging people in, because if they're a local business owner, they could probably be a core and you can have that relationship conversation with them. So you don't have to have a database to do this, but you need to build one to do this for sure. So don't let that stand in your way, because I get that a lot. I don't know enough people. Well, shit, you're gonna have to figure it out because we got to sell houses.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think Revaluate helps speed up the process too. And it helps you, like, especially like in the farm bucket. Say you got 2,000 people in that farm bucket. You're not calling everybody to invite them to the ice cream. You don't know who to call. Right? But if I know, like, hey, there's 10 people that raise my hand, I think what Revaluate does too is it's really painful for most people because they realize how many people they had in their database that did transactions without them because they didn't know who to spend more time with. Like, hey, I invited Joe to the ice cream thing, but he didn't answer. Like, if he's got a high score, guess what? I'm calling him 3 more times. Like, he's going to, I'm like, hey, there's a prize for you at the ice cream thing. You better like I know who to put more energy and effort to. And because you're losing a massive amount of business because you don't know how to prioritize. It's not necessarily about time management. It's about priority management, and Revaluate allows you to priority manage way better than any other tool.
For sure.
Which leads us to,
While
you
we're
know,
all here.
Will, who we've never talked to before, that we don't know from Adam, but happens to be in our Revaluate score. We know that he just had 2 kids and, you know, his shoe size and everything else. We always think about selling. So this is where the biggest question I get is, what do I do when I have a high score and I don't know them from Adam? What do I do?
I lie, straight up lie every single time.
I think we go to church together. Right? All right, Brad, what do you do?
If it's straight up like a lead that I got through a platform SEO and it comes through and it's like I really never talked to them, you could do a couple things, right? One, and I'm not joking about lying, I could call them up and say, hey, Joe, it's Brad Allen. Just following up, like I said, I would a couple months ago. Just want to check back in with you and see if your circumstances have changed or anything, or if you're still in the hunt for looking for a house, or it's just something random like that. And they're going to either have to put up a huge push, but honestly, people, this sounds really bad, are kind of like sheep, and they're going to play along because they're like, shit, I talked, who is this? Like, I talked to him. Like, yeah, we talked like 2 months ago. They're not going to go back in their phone book and look, but it kind of gives you that rapport. And hopefully they at least know your name because they've been the lead. But ultimately, if you don't want to lie that bad, I would call them up and just say, hey, Joe, it's Brad Allen. I know it's been a minute since we've connected. I just want to double check. I'm going through my calendar for the next couple of months, and I want to see if I need to make any time for you, if you had any real estate needs, because I want to make sure I have enough time on the calendar for you to kind of see what's going on.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
they may push back and say, nope, but here's the thing I find. You're planting a seed, and I use a car analogy a lot. You want a new car. You're like, I'm going to buy a new car in 6 months. And then all of a sudden you start seeing the car you like, and then you're driving by the dealership and you walk out the car a week later. Like, you really weren't planning on buying the car, but overnight you have a new car. Same thing with them. Now you pique their interest. Like, honey, who was that? Oh, that was Brad. He was asking if we wanted to buy a house, but I told him we're good. And it's like, well, you know, that house did come up down the market the other day. And then all of a sudden, so I check back in about a week and just say, hey, I know I caught you off guard the other day. Did y'all figure out which situation or something along those lines? But
No, absolutely. I'll give you my favorite one that I use, especially on the seller side. So the script, you know, say you get a high Revaluate lead, you know, score, you don't know what to necessarily do with it, you don't know from Adam. So here's the script that I use a lot. I'll call and, I'll call Alex and say, hey, Alex, this is Wayne with, with EXP Realty. Hey, I have some clients. I promised that I would call around and see if there's anybody that's thinking about selling in your neighborhood. Cause, I have several people that are really interested in that area. So I was just curious, like, have you guys thought about selling it all? So here's what's cool. When I say I'm calling because I promised, what happens at that moment is the wall goes down, because I'm not calling to sell you, dude. I'm calling to fulfill a promise I made to somebody else. So when I call and say, hey man, I promised my clients that I would be on the hunt for them and see if there's anything available. So I'm just calling on their behalf. I was curious, if you had a cash offer from a great buyer, and I know you're probably gonna live there forever, but I was just curious if you would consider that if you thought about selling. Right, so that's usually how I get the ball rolling. And then one of my favorite questions to ask them is, we may they go no or whatever. If they say no, we're not thinking about it, I go totally cool, I get it. Just so I know, what's your favorite thing about the neighborhood? I'm gonna ask them kind of an off the wall question, right? What's your favorite thing about the neighborhood that maybe you wish you would have known before you moved in there? They may give me something, and I go, oh, that's great, I love that too. Hey, but before I go, just out of curiosity, if you were gonna go somewhere, like where would you move to? They always say they don't know every time. So then you go, I totally get it, dude. And yet, if you did know where, like where would you go? The second time they always answer, swear to God. First time they go, I don't know. Second time they go, well, actually, we've looked at Trinity Falls. And I go, man, I love it over there. If I did happen to find a house over there, would you want me to let you know about it? And they say yes, and then you're off to the races, right? So I love calling them on behalf of a client. I find that is the best way, especially with a cold lead, to open the door up right away, and have a pretty intentional conversation.
If you go back to doing your database right and having those events too, that's always an easy ask too. Cause now it's just like, hey, they've probably gotten some marketing from you. So
Yeah.
it's just like, hey, Brad, I just want to invite you to our cookies and beer coming up. We haven't had a chance to meet face to face. This is for clients and customers. It's going to be at such and such time. I'd love to just put a face with a name. And so that has worked a good bit.
Yeah.
And
No,
it's just
that's
a very
great.
easy laid back.
Yeah. Well, and that leads into like send them something and then see if they got it. Send them something by the mail or send them an email, whatever. And just going, hey, Brad, I sent out a market, update for the area. And I just want to make sure you got that. Do you have any questions? That can lead right into everything else. So here's the question though that I get all the time. Do you have to call them?
Yes.
But
Yes.
I like to hide behind emails.
Right. So do they. And guess the email you're going to get. The email you get with Revaluate is the email. So here's what I love about Revaluate. When I did Zillow leads forever and spent too much millions of dollars on it, we always get the shitty emails. We all know that. We get the subscription email and they don't check it for months and it gets bogged down. Revaluate loves those emails because that's what they need to do their job. I keep giving thumbs up through my Zoom. But I love that. But the problem is your people are going to give you that shitty email and they're not going to respond. And now you're going to think your database sucks. And you're going to think your database doesn't respond. And it's not really their fault. They haven't seen it because they don't check their email.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it's automatically going to their spam, or they had an auto unsubscribe. I think that's my biggest frustration or my biggest concern, maybe say it that way, is whether it's Revaluate or whether it's another platform, they're hiding behind emails. They're hiding behind emails, and I'll tell you what, you get a lead, you've got to pick up the phone and call them. If they don't answer, send them a text, send them a voice. I check every voice memo. I don't check my voicemails. I haven't checked my voicemail in 100 years. Right. But my voice, if you leave me a voice memo, I'm probably listening to that. But you've got to call them. And there are so many people that are trying to hide behind that piece. And I'll tell you what, that's probably the number one reason you're not converting or getting as much business as you could be, is because too many people are hiding behind email and everything else. You've got to pick up the phone, know what you're going to say hi.
And the goal is a conversation. An email is one way. It is an electronic letter. You're sending a letter. Like that's what you're doing. So if you want to have a conversation, when you want to get the good stuff out of them and know their dog died and their kid's going off to college or whatever else, I mean, it sucks, y'all. Take some shots. I don't know. Take some gummies, whatever you got to do. But like, you've got to do something. You've got to just loosen up and get it done.
Yeah.
Just to add, I think best case scenario, an email is going to maybe give you like a recognition point. So they'll see our team, right? And maybe they'll forget about it 5 seconds later. They don't have to respond. Text messages, we can talk about that, but it's similar. It's easy to ignore. That's kind of the point here is, we talk about that a lot too. Just want to recap a little bit. Like to us, we call those like value adds, right? Having something to send, something to offer. A community event is a value add. A vendor that you can promote or even talk to, or an update list. Those are all value adds, and that all lines up really well with any. Even if you're not using Revaluate, you should still be having. You should have these things in your pocket. Get ready to go, and like Brad said, get comfortable with calling them, because that's going to be the quickest way. When you said something, I don't know if you're going to go back to it, but you ranked these touch points with points, right? Like email is worth way more. You almost made a gamification out of it.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
planning to go back to that, or are we just teasing us with some of that information?
Yeah. Just teasing you with it.
Okay.
No, no, I think it is. I think you look at these things and you figure out which ones you're going to do. But the great thing about, and Brad does such a good job with events, is they it's not just about the event. It's about all the touches I get to do up until the event. It's about the FOMO and the pictures I get to share from the event. And there's another reason to reach out to them. Like the event is not just about the event. It's kind of like doing an open house. An open house is not just about the open house, it's about what you do before and what you do after. So I think that, and the other beautiful thing, especially what Brad has, is he basically does the same events over and over and over, right? So figure out what are those two or three things, and we can tweak them and craft them. If something sucks, you don't have to do it again next year. But like hopefully with some coaching and a little bit of trial and error and learning from other people, it gets easier and easier. Like here's the four we do. We do the toy drive every year. We do the baseball game every year, and it gets easier and easier and easier. Instead of trying to do something new and fancy and wing it over, like stop doing it over and over and over for the first time. If that makes sense.
Yeah, just a couple. So I use Follow Boss for my CRM, and inside of Follow Boss, they do have a leaderboard that you can't change it. They set it, but like email is 1 point, but a call that lasts an appointment is 500 points. A call that lasts over 2 minutes is 100 points. So you can go in if you're team lead, you can see what your people are doing in terms of like leadership, and they get competitive. But also, if you're just a solo person, you could say, "Hey, I want to get to 100,000 points this month." And you can see what's paying off. So there are some things built into good CRMs like that. And it's been very helpful because I can challenge my younger, fresher agents, say, get 10,000 points this month. Like that's your job. Just get after it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So what I would transition to just a little bit is I get this a lot. Hey, I just talked with that person. The Revaluate scores a 90. I just talked with them. Like they're not doing anything. And lo and behold, they're wrong. And they're not 100%, but they're wrong. So again, I lie. I just call them up and say, "Hey, Steve, I just drove by your house. Just thinking of you, man. Like everything good with the family? How's the house? You need any repair people? It's springtime. Let me know if you need a pressure washer. I just found a new guy. So how's everything going? Again, I just thought about you. I just showed a house in your neighborhood. I just did this because it's believable. You might have. If you actually look at your calendar, you may have driven past this house in the last year. So you might not be lying."
Yeah, I drove by. It may have been 300 miles away, but I drove by. I was driving around and thought of you. Yep.
Just thinking about you from looking at your name on my database. But yeah, so I think those are the easy layups that we think too much about it. We think way too much about it. And I always say this, and I tell this to all my agents, my banker calls me every single month, like clockwork. And he's sort of a friend, but he's also making sure his investments are good. But like, I know it, but he's just literally, he's checking in. How's the market? How are things going? What do you need from me? Anything coming up? And we've got that business relationship. So I take his call. I actually don't shy away from it. We talk through it. I see what's going on and I appreciate it. I know I'm being loved on, but I also know that he's just checking in to see if he can be helpful at all. So I think people, again, get in their way too much and think they're bothering people, and you're not.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
We got a question.
Yeah, Mike, would one of those scripts that we talked about, do you think one of those would work for you, or do you need a different take? I guess would be my question for him. So I think if we were going to restack them, one would be like, "Hey, I'm following up with you." That would be one script, right? Whether you've talked to him before or not. The second would be, "Hey, I sent you something. Did you get it?" I think that would be the next one that we talked about. And then the third one was like, "Hey, I promised my clients that I would look around and try to find them a great house. Would you consider a cash offer?" Right. So those are the three that if we kind of had to, narrow them down. Is there any other one, Brad, that like stands out to you? I think those are probably the three that are the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's another one. Alex, what do you got?
I think I also would add like the promise one, but then instead of asking cash offer, you could just ask them, do you know anyone who's thinking of moving the next 12 months?
Yeah.
Just don't even ask them specifically if they're moving, just open up the conversation. I think we're trying to plant the seed, right, to these people. We don't expect to get a win every single time we make a call. It's going to take a couple of calls. But if we can plant the seed, maybe they know somebody. Really, it's them, right? We know they're scoring high. We're calling them for a reason, but they don't
Mhm.
have to know that. We just want to start the process, get those gears rolling.
So
Brett, what were you going to say?
yeah, so I'm not a salesy kind of guy. Like I am a give to get kind of guy. So an easy one, and you said we could talk about their tech. So
Yeah.
HomeBot, very inexpensive, $39 a month. It's a home evaluation. It comes from you, and if you have a lender, they can pay for it. But it's very inexpensive, and it comes from you every single month. So imagine if you have HomeBot, great. So imagine if you called this person and you go, there's a cold lead, and you're just like, hey, Steve, it's Brad Allen over at Real Estate. I'm just checking them in my database, just kind of going through, making sure everybody's taken care of, everybody's getting touched on. And also, we just invested in a new technology called HomeBot. It's it's a home evaluation software, but it's a whole lot better, and you get to tweak with it, and it goes so much deeper. We've been using it just for our clients, but I've got some extra users, so I figured I'd open up to some customers. So I tell you what, when we get done, I don't ask them, by the way. When we get off the call, I'm going to send you a link to it. Don't worry, nobody's selling your information. I've already got it. And you'll be able to go in there and see what your house is doing. And that's just another layer that
Yeah.
you can also see if they start messing with their stuff. But also,
Yeah.
if they are in that 20% that are going to likely move, they're going to really pay attention to that. Or you've planted the seed and it's going to help them move later. So you could follow up, like Wayne said, a week later. Hey, I sent you that link. Were you able to get in? Do you have any issues with it? You're not selling them. You're giving them a resource, and they're not going to be mad at you. It's free.
Yeah.
People love free stuff.
Yeah. It's so good. So good. I love that.
Wayne, do you have any cool tech you want to? Because I love learning about other techs. I mean, we can quickly, if you have anything in top of mind. HomeBot is awesome, and I think someone said it as well in the chat.
Yeah, I think that the tech is great. I love using things like, using memes. I know this might sound a little old school, but like using memes, using audio text, audio messages, things like that. Doing a quick video, right? Like hey, I started name up in the database, and I just want to check it. Like things like that, I think are so good. I think the best tech is the one that reminds you. Like I think use your CRM, and let it remind you, and follow those things. So get out of your way, make the phone calls. I think the biggest thing that most people are not doing.
One thing I've been doing for agents right off the bat, especially follow boss agents, is I just set up an automation for them to create a task. Because tasks kind of sit there in front of you. And if you don't manually complete them, it's on you, right? You got to own it.
Yeah.
And you got to go out and get it. If you don't make the calls, you're not going to get it. And sitting there, those notifications every time you log in, kind of put something in your head. Hopefully, it does to me when I have those laying in front of me. I got to complete them. But you don't have to do anything special. If you have CRM, usually you can create a simple automation and then tie it with whatever tech you're running. If it's Revaluate, we're pushing a tag when something becomes interesting, have it automatically remind you, hey, I have to call this person or I got to send this email. Done that for a couple agents, and it's on them now. They have the technology in front of them, and they have the option to make money that way.
Yeah, we take it one step further because I know a lot of us are busy and they're like, I don't log into my CRM every day. And again, I have 3,000 tasks. So yes, we do the task for sure. But I also go into Zapier and have Revaluate directly Slack. You can do it to text message
I
if you
love
wanted
that.
to. Slack it every morning at 9 o'clock. If people have people over 80, it starts pinging them and they can click on it, takes them into Follow Up Boss, and then they can see the contact. And again, you don't need to read about these people. These people are moving for reasons you don't know. So don't start doing research. Don't start diving in 3 pages deep on their contacts. Just call them and use something simple. But whatever you need to do, there is tech out there. Alex does all this stuff. So if you want something simpler than having to set up a tag or whatever, then like reach out. But there's no reason you should not be using this thing. Revaluate has made us money, and it's helped us keep in touch with past clients that we may have forgotten about because they just bought 6 months ago, and we're going to call them in a year and a half. And so it brings stuff to top of mind that we weren't even on their radar.
It's like use the tech. Like the tech is amazing, and it's there to elevate you, not replace you. Like use the tech, but don't stop making the call. Right. So like a lot of people think, can I just tech everything and never have to talk to anybody? And I think that's it's painful. Right. There's other people that have no tech and are just talking. Like neither one of those is good. Over tech and no tech. Right. Both of those are bad. Use the tech, make the phone call. Right. And the second thing is like back to Brad's point, never leave anything up to memory. meaning, right, every time I talk to somebody, set up the next touch. Never leave a lead without establishing the next touch. So never leave it up to memory, never leave it up to, oh, I remember to call Joe, right? Like, never do that. So last thing that I would say on this is where, Brad and I come into play, right? Like, there's three things. We know speed is money. We know trial and error is the hardest way to learn. And we know that a lot of us are fighting battles that other people have already figured out, right? The Zapier connection, the this, the that, the scripts. So here's the thing. There's three ways we can tackle those, right? The hardest way, the most expensive way, and the best way. The hardest way is how Brad and I started, which was everything on your own, right? Like, just learn it all on your own, right? Like, thank God we got, maybe we should have a high pain threshold, right? It's like, I would just beat my head against the wall forever, right? This is the hardest way, okay? The most expensive way is pay someone to, hire Alex full-time at $700,000 a year and let him, just hire him to work for you 18 hours a day, right? That's the most expensive way. The best way is do it with you. So that's what Brad and I love doing is coaching and coming alongside of and doing it with you. Here's the tools, here's the system. You got to make the call, but we'll help you integrate all this where it works the best. So I just want to put that out there that if you want help, if you want to do it the best way, it's usually not on your own. Reach out. We'll do a 90-day, what we call implementation coaching. And that's where we really get in, roll our sleeves up and help you go through this and get everything dialed in. I'll put this in the chat. But put a message in there, send us a message right now, and we'd love to help you integrate this faster, more effectively, so you don't have to do it all on your own.
We'll also put together an email with all the information. I'll put something in there for Brad as well if someone wants to reach out to him directly. I mean, you guys are both amazing, but you do have different skill sets in some areas. So definitely if anyone wants to connect with everybody here on this call, we'll make sure that goes out. Awesome. Is there any other final questions? Anyone in the chat? Anything else? Transcripts. We can work on that. I'll talk to you.
My college transcripts, because I don't think you want to see my college transcripts. It's not good.
Oh, my team hates my transcripts because I talk too fast, so they usually don't make sense. Oh.
Maybe we can get a copy of that Excel document or something like that about Wayne. You can share with everybody that they can start building out. Because I think, like Brad said, you got to do that first. If you haven't done it yet, you're going to be confused. That's going to help you, and you got to be thinking about it all the time. Brad, Wayne, thank you for hanging out with me today. This was awesome. Any last words? Any final thoughts?
Thanks for all you're doing for us. I wish I had this 20 years ago.
Make phone calls. Pick up the phone.
Do the hard work. You're not going to be successful in your database if you don't do the legwork first. If you try and get it all later, you're going to get busy. You're going to forget. You'll be 10 years later, and you're not going to have the database you should. Start first. Crawl before you walk. It will pay you 10 times more than you ever thought.
Awesome, guys. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks for jumping on. Enjoy your Thursday. Bye.
Thanks, y'all. Talk to you soon.